After my last video, I was looking for a new money-making method which wasn't crafting and wasn't logbooks. Something that involved blasting maps with Expedition and Harbinger. What I ended up doing was spending way too much time, over 20 hours of gameplay, testing several different setups in over 100 maps, of a total cost of 25 divines. But after all that time, I found a strat that was pretty fun, and despite being moderately expensive, decent to invest in, scaled incredibly well. So today I'm going to go through the journey that led me to that decision and explain some of the things I found along the way. The first thing I did was compare different layouts. At the time I was doing Expedition, Harbinger, Harvest, and Blight, so I tried a closed layout like Toxic Sewer, which didn't work very well. Altars just weren't spawning, probably because there's only so many points for a mechanic to spawn in enclosed areas. So I swapped to something more open, like Cemetery, because of Brother's Gift and Brother's Stash. But City Square ended up being even better. Now, if you want to know more about how I came to the conclusion that the layout was better, then do be sure to check out my full stream where I went through all the testing. The TLDR is, if you're using the Harbinger currency shard sextant, each boss drops Harbinger currency shards. So if you're using a map with 3 bosses and you twin it, that's 6 chances for those valuable Fracturing Orb shards. Also keep in mind, your own results may vary. To get a perfectly accurate sample size, I'd probably have to do 10,000 maps, not 100 and change. And even doing just a bit over 100, I almost went insane, so that's definitely not happening. So your results may vary a little bit. As one last piece of housekeeping, if you want to know the upgrades that I've made to my Righteous Fire build, be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss out when I talk about it. But now, let's get into a little bit more about the strategy. First off, Expedition and Harvest were a bulk of the expense, but also a bulk of the profits. Blight was adding pretty good money even in an open layout, but it was definitely not as good as an enclosed layout, such as Toxic Sewer. And while Blight was adding a decent amount of a profit, it was also adding a massive amount of time. So my first 80 or so maps were with slightly different, varied setups for Blight, Expedition, Harvest, dropping Harbinger, re-adding Harbinger, dropping Expedition, re-adding Expedition, and all that. Ultimately, what I settled on was Sacred Grove with Life Force Dupe, Harbinger Currency, Blight Oils for the Sextants, Gilded Blight, Polished Expedition, Polished Harbinger, and Polished Beast or Breach Scarabs. I ran about 30 of the maps on stream and about 50 of the maps off stream. I think this cost me around 13 divines, and I got 46 back. In addition, I got a high-value Divinarius worth 2 to 3 divines, an Intuitive Leap versus 1, some Sun logbooks, Black Scythe logbooks, Order and Druid, and a Fracturing Orb plus 7 Fracturing Shards, which at the time was around 8 divines. I sold the orb fairly quickly for 5.9 and didn't end up selling the shards, they're just kind of sitting in my stash. I also found an Empower, so let's say around 60.5 total. Because I sold a couple things on the faster end, we can round down to 55 divines, which means 42 in profit. And yes, I did sell a majority of the items that I got from this video within about an hour of putting everything up for sale. But remember how I said Blight added a lot of time? Well, it took me 11 hours to run those 50-ish maps, which means it was only about 3.8 to 4 divines an hour, which is far from impressive despite having a lot of divine drops, a Fracturing Orb, and other stuff that makes me think this is towards the lucky end rather than the unlucky end. While the return per map was very good, I certainly can't argue with around 1 divine per map average. The profit per hour was bad because it was taking me so long to run the maps, sometimes over 10 minutes. And then I went back to the testing board and ended up finding a strategy which worked way better. For Sextants, I used Life Force Dupe, Sacred Grove, Harbinger Currency, and +2 Strongboxes. Then, for Scarabs, I used any Sulfite Scarab, Polished Harbinger, Polished Expedition, and Rusted Ambush. While this worked quite well, if you find Ambush to be too expensive, you can easily use Breach or Abyss, as the goal is simply to add monsters. And the second part of his strategy is kill the boss immediately. Then, kill the rest of the enemies in the map to find altars. Prioritize clicking Quant altars. For this, you'll have to be doing a blue altar strategy for the 50% increased effective altars, and you want to increase all the general drops in your map. You can either do this in City Square if you want to maximize the Harbinger currency, or Cemetery if you want some divine drops. At least assuming you're lucky enough to get any Brother's Gift within your testing. Then, after doing this, double back and clear both the Harvest and Expedition. After coming to this conclusion, I did another 30 maps of testing. Some notable drops included 7 Fracturing Shards, 4 Sun Logbooks, 5 Scythe, 7 Order and Druid, Calm Spirit, a Voidborn Reliquary Key, Sacred Blossom, some boss maps, Sephiroth, Brother's Stash, Enlighten, and all in all, I'd say I got about 29 Divines from 30 maps, meaning it's a little bit less currency per map, but I only spent around 6 Divines and I ran them much faster. In fact, it was so fast that I was down to between 5 and 6 minutes per map. At 23 Divines in profit after 30, that's about 7 to 7.5 Divines an hour. Now, I know the sample size is a bit small, and I should probably retest at some point, but honestly, after doing the over 100 maps, it's kind of exhausting, so you'll probably have to do future tests for yourself, or wait for another league when I actually want to see this stuff again. That being said, it does seem to be a solid money-making method for anyone who likes running Expedition and Harvest and wants to map quickly. I tried growing Hordes for a bit, I didn't like how it feels. The inconsistency of not having Expeditions just felt really bad. It might be slightly more profit per hour, but I prefer the consistency of making sure the mechanics I want are in every map. As a note, the reason that I'm using the Sulfite Scarab is for Packed with Energy. For 0.7 Chaos, you get plus 3% max LE res, making you tankier, 105% increased damage, so your clear's accelerated, and 45% move speed, helping you zoom through the maps. If you're wondering why the build is so fast, well, it's because I have some free movement speed. Of course, if you're doing Strongboxes, you'll also need the Strongbox nodes, and personally, I like the boss drop just to get a little extra value. There is a chance that adding too many Strongboxes could also interfere with altar spawns, but for my testing it was profitable enough that this didn't feel to be happening. You'll just have to test that for yourself, and if that is the case, stick to Cemetery over City Square. So due to Pact with Energy, the strat got much zoomier. It's easy to clear the Strongboxes, you can always save them until all of your quant has stacked up, or pop them immediately if you wanted to be done with the map even faster. Just kill the boss ASAP and click any Sulfite nodes you come across. I'll admit, this is a lot more involved than the last strategy I did, but getting 90 Divines back isn't too shabby. But with that said, upcoming moneymaking is probably going to involve my new build, so maybe it's going to be Expedition Logbooks, bossing, or could just be that time in the league where I sit in my hideout and craft. So if you found this helpful, maybe to revise one of your money-making strategies by adding Pact with Energy, a great add-in for just 2 points and a Scarab, or you found a new strategy to try since it was 7 Divines an hour based on my testing and I didn't feel like I got especially lucky within those 30 maps, or you just like seeing a build zoom and getting a few shiny things on screen, do be sure to leave a like and let me know down in the comments what your favorite money-making strategies involve. With that said, I hope you found this helpful, and I'd like to take a moment to thank the patrons and channel members. Without your support, I really wouldn't be able to do videos like this. For as low as $1 a month, you can help make more content possible. Links down in the description. If you're looking for something else to watch, maybe check out my low investment strategy that focuses on beasts and essences. If you want to know about my build, I recently released a video on that, or if you want to know my thoughts on the Torchlight Season release, then I have a reaction video which you can check out now, or you can always go for a recommendation that's on screen. With that said, thanks for watching, I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you again sometime soon.